to be able to just make a choice on your own and just be able to speak for yourself.
This One's Wife, Narc, Snark, mocked again. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Hitherto, as a consequence of the litigation that's taking place involving Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds and Justin Baldoni, I put Ryan Reynolds and his wife Blake Lively under the Tudorscope. If you've not watched those videos, I suggest you go and do so. You'll learn plenty more about them and narcissism. One of the narcissistic indicators of Ryan Reynolds is the fact that he engages in regular snarky commentary about other people. He's made it his shtick in some respects, that he's become known for it, and in some instances it is rather amusing. But understand that what he's actually doing is utilising this persona as a means to put other people down, to belittle them for the purposes of asserting his own need for control over them and drawing fuel by way of people's reactions when they find it amusing. This time, this one's wife has entered his sights. Reynolds appeared on Conan O'Brien's podcast called Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, and they poked fun at this one's wife for being a middleman for jars of jam. The Duchess of Sussex's lifestyle brand As Ever, which launched in April, is a collection of jams, tea, honey, baking mixes and other home products. And it's worth noting that as we approach the end of May, it's still not actually supplying anything that you can purchase. During Reynolds and O'Brien's conversation, the duo touched on the Deadpool star growing up with his dad Jimmy, who became a food broker. Reynolds teased that he thought that this actually meant that his father was a CIA agent. Before, he told his son it meant that he was a middleman for jars of jam. O'Brien couldn't hold back laughing, responding, "What? He works for this one's wife?" before putting on a deep sinister voice and stating, "Tiny jams, harvestable jams, made from the oils of Monty Shitshow." "If Jimbo Reynolds wasn't dead, I'd say he is this one's wife," said Reynolds, before quickly adding, "Well, adjacent." O'Brien responded, "Many people have likened the two." In April, this one's wife took to social media to celebrate the long-awaited launch of As Ever after multiple delays and a name change from American Riviera Orchard. The article then goes on explaining the launch process and With Love, This One's Wife program. Also, it leads, of course, with the snark that comes from Ryan Reynolds. And, of course, he's going to make fun of somebody because it enables him to, in essence, belittle them for the purposes of indirectly asserting control over them and asserting control directly over the audience listening to this podcast. Leaving aside the fact that Reynolds is a narcissist, the fact is he, in the way that Piers Morgan, also a narcissist, has used the truth about what this one's wife is in order to pursue the prime aims, which is simply to suggest that she is a middleman for jars of jam. This one's wife wants to be taken seriously. She wants to be seen as a heavyweight business individual. She, as you know, has her useless podcast series Confessions of a Female Founder. That's all part of her need to demonstrate herself as a serious player in the world of business, allying herself with people who've actually founded multi-million-dollar businesses, acquiring their character traits by suggesting, "I'm just like them," and utilising the podcast as a vehicle to assert control, manage her facade and draw fuel as she talks about herself and bores everybody into a catatonic state. Yet, for all of her protestations of being this businesswoman of the year, some mercantile mastermind, for demonstrating that she is superlative when it comes to the worlds of trade, the actual fact is that Conan O'Brien and Ryan Reynolds sit there and they mock her. She isn't taken seriously. They compare Reynolds' father, who was a middleman for jars of jam, with her. Reynolds' father was a salaried employee. He was a food broker. He was a middleman for jars of jam. And they equate that bog standard role with the way that this one's wife is. This naturally is challenge fuel for this one's wife. They're talking about her, which provides her with fuel, but it is a criticism which she will not want. She wants to be seen as being absolutely brilliant at business, a titan of trade, this colossus of cash who is able to create this brand which sold out in minutes, that she knows all the ins and outs as she drops the various acronyms. But the fact is, nobody takes her seriously. People have laughed at the jam or the spread. People have ridiculed her for the contrived way in which she made it look like she had sold out. People regularly mock her for the fact that you can't actually buy anything and you never actually could. She's been criticised for the fact that people have placed orders which have not been fulfilled and they're still waiting for refunds. And now she has another narcissist and Conan O'Brien poking fun at her. Her attempts to persuade the world that she's a serious player have once again failed. She is a joke person. She's not a broadcaster, a content creator, a producer. She isn't a writer or a politician or a philanthropist or a charitable advocate. She is quite simply a self-absorbed and self-serving narcissist. She's turned her hand to business with ARO, which went nowhere. It became as ever, it went nowhere. And it's demonstrative of the scale by which people hold her in contempt that she gets mentioned on this particular podcast, that they single her out as being seen as the middleman for jars of jam, that the snark that comes from the narc, that it is Reynolds, serves his own purposes, as you would expect it to be the case, but once again it results in mockery of this one's wife. The only people that give her any degree of sincerity are those that stand to gain from her, namely Crying Makeup Man, for instance. Other people who toady around her because they stand to make money out of her. Everybody else just stands and laughs at her. They find her ridiculous. They recognise that she is a D-list mediocre actress who has only become famous as a consequence of ensnaring a dim-witted ginger prince, that she's tried her hand at so many things to make herself seem credible, and she has failed and failed again. And the latest manifestation of her failure is for her to be compared to a salaried employee and a middleman for jars of jam, as Ryan Reynolds joins in with a mocking of her. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.